Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Runnin With The Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And I am about to bring in an esteemed guest and a good friend, longtime Devils fan, my man, Dr. Dan, and I think he's there waiting for us. And with the magic of the internet, bang! I present to you my man, Dr. Dan. Cheers, Dr. Dan. What do I have here?
Cheers.
My normal surf side. What do you got there? What do you show the folks they like to know? Oh, we have some Peroni drinkers in the crowd. All right, Dr. Dan. So before we get into it here, just give me a quick backstory. How and when did you become a fan of the New Jersey Devils?
Well, this is a story that I love to tell. This is a story I love to tell. My father and his really good buddy went to a Devils game together. That Devils game happened to be the Stanley Cup winning game in 1995.
Whew.
It was my dad's first game. He got invited by his best bud.
First game
And
ever
the
went
next first game he ever went to.
What a game. June 25th,
What a game. Right? So the next day I woke up and my entire room was draped in Stanley Cup championship winning regalia. My brother and I were indoctrinated that next day. We were Devils fans. We were never going back. And that day converted me and my brother and my whole family, for that matter, into Devils fans. And that same year, we became season ticket holders. So my dad bought 2 tickets right behind Marty. We were 15 rows up, basically on the aisle. And I remember my sister was a baby, and my mom would take her and I to some games. And she'd be holding this little baby in her hands, and a puck would go flying, and it would land right next to my mom's seat on the aisle. And I'd be like, "Mom, get the puck! Get the puck! Drop the baby! Get the puck!"
For the young kids, this is before they had the nets draped around.
Oh, no nets. No nets.
This pucks were just flying out left and right.
The puck went where the puck wanted to go, and you had to be aware at all times. Otherwise, you could be going to the hospital. So it was a great time to be a hockey fan at that point. And we had some really great years, obviously, 3 cups, almost a 4th in 2012. And, this is going to be a year. This is really going to be a good year.
So give me Dr. Dan's outlook thus far on this very busy offseason for Mr. Tom Fitzgerald, which started with the hiring of Sheldon Keefe as the new head coach.
So let's talk about that one for a second. Sheldon Keefe has a proven track record in junior, obviously with the Sioux Greyhounds. He did really great things with Kyle Dubas, and I think that the two of them kind of took the reins in Toronto, and they had a great core group, but we all know where that went, like they haven't really been able to get things done. So can Sheldon Keefe galvanize the troops? Can he get this young core group of studs to believe in him and follow him and really, take them to the promised land? I don't know. What do you think, Ace? What's your take on Keefe?
I like him. He was one of the names that when they first came up that it seemed like it would be a sensible hire. I wanted Berube the most, but due to the, hard ball, hard tactics, kind of no nonsense approach, I do think that maybe Fitzgerald thought our group was so fragile they couldn't handle it. Cause I think it would be kind of, 0 to 100 from one extreme to another, from Lindy to Berube. I think they may have went into epileptic shock almost, and it may have broke some of these guys. I hate to say it, and I don't think you should pick a coach based on that. I think that would have been good for them, but I think Keefe was probably in my opinion, the second best available guy. Like you said, his track record speaks for itself, going back to juniors, and they had a bunch of very good regular seasons in Toronto. And so I'm hoping that not only can he mimic the regular season success that he had with the Maple Leafs here, but that it also can finally extend into the playoffs and we can start winning some rounds with these kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think these kids really needed to get a kick in the pants. I really think that somebody needs to take the reins, and I think that Keefe can do that. I think with the D core that we have now, we're not so little anymore, and I think that
all right, you're jumping ahead, Dr. Dan. You're jumping ahead. You're
sorry.
Ahead. All right, so Keefe. All right, so you like Keefe too. You're on board.
I like Keefe.
All right, then we're gonna
definitely.
Go Jacob Markstrom. What do you got on that?
Okay, so Jacob Markstrom, great 2-year play. Big guy, can stop the puck, really good rating in high danger chances. How many years does he have left in the tank, though? 2, maybe 3?
I just hope at least the 2. I'm happy with the 2. If we get the bonus third, great. But if not, I mean, I thought for 2 years he would give us a very good chance to win on a nightly basis. I mean, a lot of people have been kind of crying and our goalies are old, this, that, and the other thing. And, there's people on pretty much every side of the spectrum, I think, regarding Markstrom. But I personally did not want to take the gamble on Ullmark. I mean, what'd you think about Ullmark? A lot of people were super hot on him. I never was.
I don't think so. I think he had that really hot season with Boston. But, look at his playoff record, and it's kind of like
less than desirable.
Definitely not proven. And who else was out there? Saros? I mean,
I don't think they were trading him for anything short of a Lions share of just players, prospects. It seemed like Trotz wanted everything under the sun for him, and then they ended up signing him to what seemed like a pretty team-friendly deal, considering what some of the rumors were. And who knows, right? I mean, they still have Askarov, and one of them has to get moved at some point. I mean, there's no chance. There's already rumors that he wants out because of the Saros deal. So, at some point, I thought maybe they might trade Saros now that they signed him up, unless they somehow make a backdoor deal with the kid Askarov and be like, listen, we're going to keep Saros for one more year, then trade him. Outside of that, I don't see how they keep him. You have 2 starting goalies essentially, and the kid wants to play. So I don't see how one of those 2 guys isn't going to be on the move, and probably will be Askarov, honestly.
I followed Askarov since the World Junior Championship, and he was lights out. He was dominant in that World Junior Championship. I think that there's a spot for him in New Jersey. I think that Russian goalies are making a name for themselves now, and you look at the top goalies in the league, and Vasilevsky, there's something about that style of play that I think
Shesterkin, Sorokin, they're dominating right now.
They're dominating right now, and I think that Askarov is part of that breed, and I think he would fit in really, really well. I mean, gone are the days of the French-Canadian goalie dominating the league.
I typically like my goalies French-Canadian, but, that's
I do too.
That's just the old man in me talking. But, I mean, when you had that stretch with Marty and Wah, and then, more recently, Luongo and Fleury. So, the pedigree is certainly there, but we might see some of those Russian guys creeping up the all-time lists in years from now.
Yeah, I mean, Tretiak was the goalie back in the 80s and, and before that. I mean, Russian style of goaltending is pretty dominant. So I'd like to see a Russian goalie if we can't get a French-Canadian one through, a draft or through a trade.
It seems like they want a ton for him too. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to trading future pieces to get him to set us up for after Markstrom's done. But if they, if it's going to take roster players and the team today is going to take a hit, I personally would just say, and hope one of these other guys pan out, including the Russian goalie we took in the second round with the pick we got from the Utah Hockey Club in that Marino deal. They took that kid Yegorov, that a lot of people are super high on him as well. So maybe he might be in the mix.
I kind of liken him a little bit to an Akira Schmid. Akira put up amazing numbers in the USHL, right? This Russian kid came from the USHL. I want to see, he came from the Omaha City Lancers, which did not have a very good season this year. They gave up a lot of odd man rushes, a lot of tough chances this kid had to, battle back from. You put him on a different USHL team, maybe he has a better season, but I like to see what he can do. I mean, the USHL is a formidable league. I think that let's see what he can do. I think he's got a shot.
As he mentioned Akira Schmid, so I'm going to go to now the next kind of chronological order. What did you think when you heard the deal announced of Akira and Holtz going to Vegas for Paul Cotter?
You know, I think Akira had a stellar, backup performance against the Rangers last season in the playoffs. He was big. I never really thought of him as a solid number one. I think Fitzy is really putting on the sauce right now. I think he realizes that there's a narrow window where this team has a chance, and I think he's looking for veteran leadership to push this young core. And I think he's trying to trim the fat. If you can't swim, you're going to sink, and we need you out of here. And I think that's kind of the new attitude. I think they're really turning this into a put up or shut up squad.
Man,
so
rest in peace to both of those boys, Schmid and Holtz.
Yeah, R.I.P.
You'll never be forgotten.
Holtzy never put up the numbers that he was supposed to do. I mean, he was high in the draft, right? He was a first rounder,
number 7 overall. But in fairness, I mean, he was the whipping boy and was not getting the a lot of ice time that a lot of people thought with the ice time he might be able to do something, but it never seemed to happen. His game was picked apart. I do think there's a little bit of a double standard where other rookies like Luke Hughes had a little bit of a longer leash, were allowed to make other mistakes.
Yeah,
that Holtz pretty much got stapled to the bench for, and it's unfortunate. I think he could be a good player. Like I've said in a previous show, I wouldn't be surprised either way if he ends up being a 30 goal scorer at Vegas, or he ends up in a Sweden league or in the KHL. I wouldn't be surprised either way. It's just unfortunate that his trade value, was so down across the league. And I'm not gonna lie, I did get nervous a couple months back when all the guys that we had were going. I forget where the hell they held it this year, but when they were all going to the World Championships, and Holtz got cut from Team Sweden, he didn't make the team in favor of a non-NHL guy. I mean, when that happened, I was like, oh shit, that can't be good. And I was hoping that I was just looking a little too much into it and it wasn't an indication of things to come. But sure enough, what a lot of Devils fans, including myself, thought his trade value was X. It ended up being Y, which was, far less. And here we are. I mean, listen, I was happy to get Cotter. Like I said, a little shocked at the initial, the sticker price, if you will, on the Cotter acquisition. And I can only hope that he lights it up for us. And this is kind of water under the bridge and no one looks back on it. But I'm happy to see Cotter. I think he could bring some elements that we didn't have. And I'm hoping he really pours it on for us this year. But then now we go from Cotter to our day in free agency, which brought us Brett Pesce and Brendendillon on the blue line, replacing the now moved out Kevin Ball and John Marino. And what are your thoughts on those boys for the blue line?
Yeah, again, Baller was pretty formidable of a player, but I don't think he had enough snarl and enough tenacity to go along with the size. When you are that big, you have to command a certain presence on the ice, and I don't think he scared the other team enough, frankly. I think he was just a tall, lanky guy, and I still think he's got a lot to learn and a long way to go. Pesce, on the other hand, proven winner for Carolina. When you can play on that team, that says a lot. I think the Carolina team is stacked. I think Brind'Amour, is one of those put up or shut up kind of coaches. They ragdolled us in the playoffs 2 years ago, and Pesce was a part of it. So I like that one. I like that one a lot. I think Pesce and Dillon coming to the team are going to bring size. It's going to bring accountability, and I like it. I think that was a great move on Fitzy's part.
Yeah, I think Pesci's going to be kind of that steady guy that will, eat up a lot of minutes, not make crazy mistakes, and kind of keep the quality chances down. And Dillon, I like a lot. I forget what place he was on the list. I think he was in the top 15 or so in the league last year in hits.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that, there was games last year where I would do a post-game recap and it'd be like, oh yeah, the Devils had 8 hits, 10 hits as a team. I remember saying after a lot of games, I'm like, my God, like, do we hit anybody? I mean, Brady Tkachuk, I think, set the NHL record against us late in the season. He had 16 hits.
Yeah.
16 hits against the Devils in one game.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Guy's
believe
an animal. We need him
animal.
on our team.
Come on, listen, I'm not gonna. You get me going off on a tangent for hours about Brady. I've been flamed, and I've made tons of videos over the past few months, and people talking all kinds of smack. Yeah, I guess probably my number one most likely death threat would be from a Senators fan from all that talk. But so we got Pesci, Dillon, and then
Nason. We brought Nason back.
Oh yeah, I forgot Nason. That's who I forgot in the bottom 6. I always liked him.
I always liked him.
Giddy as a lot of people do about reunions, but when they make sense, I think they're good.
Yeah.
And I think Nason is a gamer, and I think he's a big, nasty man. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about franchise legends now. I mean,
legends.
Dr. Dan, we got legends. Then we got, Lemieux, certified legend, 2-time Stanley Cup champ. But no, I like Nason coming back. I think he's going to definitely bring some ferocity to that bottom 6. And who knows, we might even see him get chances in the top 6 potentially at random points as well. I do think there's going to be a lot of people looking to claim that kind of I'm thinking Mercer's definitely going to be in the top 6. And so I think there's going to be one more spot, whether, it ends up being Palat or maybe Halla, or you might see Cotter and Nason get looks there. I do think it's going to be very interesting to see how that all shakes out. But I guess, after we get to Nason, I guess the last piece that everyone and a lot of fans are still upset about was that top 6 forward that Fitzy said he wanted a few weeks before all of this. That never came. And then it was like, oh, Tatar's coming back. I mean, what do you think overall about kind of whiffing on a legitimate top 6 guy and then bringing Tatar back?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't know all of the factors behind the scenes, but I think Tatar coming back is a good move. I think that he's got some clout in that locker room. I think the guys didn't like when he had to go, but yeah, would it have been nice to get a formidable top 6 guy? Absolutely. I think that it kind of would have been almost like the McGillney to the 2000 team that really just elevated them to another level. And who knows, maybe it'll come mid-season
or deadline. Yeah.
Who knows? And, I think we got a good first opening day lineup. I think if we can stay healthy, and we say this every year, we got a shot. We definitely got a shot.
Guess we got about 2.5 months or so till opening day with back-to-backs against our old friend Lindy Ruff and the Buffalo Sabres in Czechia.
Couldn't have planned it any better.
And I mean, right, some of these storylines write themselves. And then obviously our home opener is against Keefe's former team in the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I was thinking, like, you think there's any way Dr. Dan might be able to slide out for a few days and maybe get to Czechia?
There's rumors that there's a hall pass with my name on it coming on my birthday.
Listen, I hear there's a lot of unsubstantiated rumors and hopes and dreams. Is there a seal of approval from the missus on this?
There is a penciled.
I knew it. Shout out to Dr. Dan's wife. I've actually known Dr. Dan's wife, long story, longer than Dr. Dan, but very, very, very cool wife you have. And I know this is a hard sell for anyone looking to go overseas with a mongoloid like myself overseas to go watch hockey when you have 3 young children at home. So I understand the mission at hand. Some of my friends would laugh at me if I even suggested that they take part in this. So the fact that you think you might be in a good position to get this closed is quite impressive.
There have been some words exchanged. Once in a lifetime opportunity was used in
That's a great catchphrase. I like it. How else are you
once in a lifetime opportunity?
That's a good one.
I think it truly is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I don't think that the Devils are going to get asked to play these big games all that often. Although, Jackhughes is a hallmark player, and I think he's getting the recognition around the league. Now he's got to put up those numbers to continue to support it.
He needs to play 82 freaking games is what he needs to do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's.
What are your thoughts? I've been meaning. I'm all over the place. But
go ahead.
People, kind of different schools of thought on this as well. What do you think about the level of physicality in the game today, and maybe how our roster was constructed up until this past offseason versus maybe the rest of the league currently, and then obviously some of the old dynasty, glory year Devil teams that we grew up watching and love so much?
Lou Lamoriello was a legend. He knew exactly what he was doing. He crafted teams that were built with the exact puzzle pieces that they needed. I hate to say it, but I think that the sale of the team changed a little bit of the mentality of the organization. Who am I to judge better or worse? But it definitely shifted from a defense-first organization, the Jacques Lemaire philosophy, to a jersey sale, butts in the seats philosophy. And I think that we became a more offensive-minded team.
Pond hockey, baby.
Yeah, but it evolved with the rule changes. I mean, we're talking about, making the net different sizes, making the pads different sizes.
If they ever change the net size, I'll be furious. That is just one that I don't think you could go there. For me personally, I think that.
Well, they changed the depth. Remember, they changed the depth of the net at one point.
They did?
Just a little bit. They made it a little deeper so that you can.
Aren't they talking about changing the width at one point?
Oh man, I don't think.
That's like sacrilegious to me. I thought at one point they were. I don't know how early or preliminary it was, but people were kind of, I think, kicking that idea around to try to increase scoring. And listen, one of the best games I've ever been to in my life, and it was a heartbreaker, but it was one of the most exciting overall games, was Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals, Devils versus Stars. We lost in triple overtime, and it was a 1-0 game. And there was
I was there.
Chances. I was there as well. I actually think. Yeah, it's funny. I actually have a ticket right here. It's going to be hard, I think, for the camera to see this. And this wasn't planned. It's hard to see it. I'll put a picture in the video so you can see it. But yeah, round 4, home game 3, and this was an upper level, I think, center ice, 105 face value. My God,
wow,
105. You couldn't even get in the building for a first round game.
No.
Times have changed. Changed. The good old days, man. The
good old days. Continental Airlines Arena, RIP.
I would move. What do you think? What do you think about, hypothetically, this is just I'm just going to spend a minute or two here on delusions, because I talked about this with some people on a live the other day. If it were up to me, I would move back to Continental Airlines Arena tomorrow. What are you on board with that too?
100%. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hit your idea. What's your
reason? When's the last time you tailgated in Newark, New Jersey?
So it's funny you mentioned that. That's one of my I'm a huge tailgate guy. That was my number one reason that I've cited since we moved. But I will tell you, and it wasn't like a full-blown tailgate. I would call it like a poor man's tailgate. But I did do it for several games during the 2012 run. And like I said, it was a very poor man's tailgate, but I did do it for several games throughout that whole run. But, it's nowhere near the same as being in the parking lot with the legions of people all doing the same, which I got a little taste back for at the Stadium Series at MetLife. And it really just reaffirmed what a kick in the balls moving to Prudential and losing that whole element was, especially during the playoffs. I would do it for pretty much every game if I had the time, but especially when that late April, May weather hits, and then when those Devils teams are going on deep runs into the finals and you're wearing shorts and it's hot as shit outside, like, those were some of the greatest times in the Continental parking lot. And I just feel like it was part of the aura almost of the team and the arena. And now it's just, I don't know, Prudential feels soulless to me, even though there's been a few marquee moments, I would say, in that building, in no particular order. Pretty much the only things of substance that really have happened there, in my opinion, is, Marty 552, Henrik, it's over, knocking out the Rangers. And then obviously
St. Patty's Day.
The same day, St. Patrick's Day as well, with the green came out with the leprechaun hat. and then hosting the Cup Finals after that Ranger series. That pretty much has really been it. If you look at, all those other dark and gloomy seasons, I mean, yeah, you could point to, a few other things, but there's really been not a lot that has happened, I think, positive for the Devils since they moved to Prudential. And it does feel like, I mean, it is just a completely different era. And, a lot of the fans that watch me or watch other Devils stuff and are Devils fans now don't really know about that whole era, really. And it's unfortunate for them because it was a better time. A winning culture. We legitimately had a chance to win the Cup every year, and then all the things with the building. But I actually live slightly closer to live closer to the Rock, but I would gladly go back to Continental any day.
Any day, yeah.
Just in terms of the drive was easier, exiting was easier, obviously the tailgate, the whole thing. And I was wondering if there's any way to start like a grassroots movement, because the owners, HBSE owners of the Devils, really, I think, wanted the arena almost more than the team, and the team just kind of came with it because Prudential is one of the biggest like entertainment venues, I think, in the world in terms of like money, because so many concerts and shows go there. So I'm wondering if somehow they could buy the old arena back for the low and then house the Devils there, and then just keep bringing more and more shows to Prudentials, make it even a more profitable kind of, show venue, and put the Devils back where they belong. I would love to see it. I can't see any world where it happens, but I really do think 5 to 10% of people at Devils games at most took public transit there, and that was like their whole pitch to kind of do it. Like, oh, public transit. I'm like, who's even taking public transit here? I mean, some people, but I think they're, completely a very small populace of people attending Devils games. I don't know. I miss the tailgating as well.
Yeah, the tailgating definitely was a big part of it growing up. I also think that, growing up around the team, back then, most of the guys lived near Essex County or in the surrounding areas. And, with Danico's restaurant right in Caldwell, I mean, it was a mezzanote, it was
I went there as many times as I could. Complete institution. So I had the cup parties there. Anytime it was like my birthday or something, and my parents like, "Oh, where do you want to go for dinner?" I'm like, "Why? You know what I'm gonna say." For years, that was what I would say every time. And I met tons of guys there over the years and had really cool experiences. And that's actually how I became a Devils fan. I was a casual hockey fan, and I met Danico there one night and had a long conversation with him. I'm going to make a separate video probably talking about this. It's a super long story, but the short of it is, I met Danico at the restaurant, talked to him for a few minutes. I was a little ass kid. He went in his truck, got a hockey card, signed it for me. And then, my Devils addiction was born and, still going 30, years later. All right. So let's just get back on this trip. I started my preliminary research, and I'm not going to lie. There's some frightening elements at work here.
Okay.
So this is how I normally book trips, because it's just easy to do the bundle. I don't always do it, but I just put in, and I know you originally said maybe a few nights, but I was like, okay, let me just put in the games of the 4th and the 5th, right? So I just put in the 2nd to the 6th, right? And you do, okay, boom. This place is far.
It is.
I didn't realize how far away it was.
Can we go nonstop? Do they have any nonstops?
Grayed out, bro. Doesn't exist.
What about from JFK?
So then you go, hold on, let me just see. So you got, look, this one is a 12-hour layover, and you're getting there the next day. And you look at the total transit times, 21 hours, 19 hours. This is with a 9
Let's
hour.
Look for JFK. Can JFK do it direct?
I think I checked this before.
Or LaGuardia, for that matter. In the meantime, I wanted to talk about something.
Go ahead.
Zeev Buyam.
Oh, go ahead. I forgot about this. You blew up my phone that night. Go ahead.
Zeev Buyam. I have been following this kid since the World Juniors, and he currently plays with his brother at the University of Denver. As a freshman, as a 17-year-old, just like Macklin, he led all defensemen in the NCAA in points and was a top 4 defenseman on the national title-winning team as a 17-year-old. Now, if that doesn't scream star talent, I don't know what does. So much so that the Minnesota Wild stole that pick just so that they could pick him. Now, the Devils had first crack at him, and they passed over him for the massively tall Russian guy.
Salayev's a beast, man. I think he's going to be a beast. I think he's going to be a beast.
I don't doubt that he is going to be a beast, but you're talking about a 17-year-old kid, played at Shattuck, played for 2 years at the program in Plymouth for the NTDP, put up numbers there, won an NCAA title as a freshman. I just think he has the drive, the dedication, the hockey IQ. I think the Devils made a blunder by not picking him. And
interesting. So you would have taken him over Salayev?
I would have. He's time will tell. Time will tell. But I don't know how many Devils defensemen that are from the Russian background that have made a humongous name in the system. I mean,
are you talking about historically?
I would have rather. Yeah, for the Devils. I mean, not in the league. I mean, there's tons in the league that have been, but for the Devils, I just don't know that they fit, the mold. And I think that the kids coming out of the now national team program are incredible hockey players. Jack and Caulfield and Zegras hasn't put up the numbers now that he used to, but I mean, those kids that are coming out of that program are handpicked, scouted from the time they're 12. Really top-notch talent guys. And Seamus Casey is another one. I mean, you watch him. He's an undersized right shot defenseman from Florida, but found his way to the national team program and just dominates at every level he's ever played. And nobody would expect this 5'10" on a good day kid who's 150 pounds soaking wet to put up the numbers he does. But look what he did at Michigan. I mean, look what he did at the program. And I think that he's going to do some great things on the blue line for the Devils if they let him play, but we'll see.
I think he's got to get traded, man. What is the soonest realistically he could even come into the Devils lineup with Luke and Nemitz already being so young and experienced? Like how we saw last year what happens with two of them, right? We had two of them thrown into the fire right away. And they'll be slightly more seasoned this year, but usually it takes D-men, even good ones, usually 3 years or so to really get their footing. If we throw him into the mix anytime soon, I think it would be disastrous. Not to mention, and I hate to knock on the small guys, I do dislike undersized guys a lot. I just really do. And I think that the team overall was kind of undersized heading into the summer, and that's why Fitzgerald famously in that phone interview said he wanted to get heavier, edgier, and more violent. And I just feel like adding another inexperienced kid on the blue line who's small, it's frightening to me. And I think he's going to be a great player too. It's just, another offensive defenseman, another young guy. I don't know, at what point he would really fit into the big club's plans. And I think he probably would have decent trade value. So I'm not wishing the kid gets traded, but if he could bring us win now help, I'm 100% a win now guy. I'm tired of looking down the line and hearing about how the future is bright and our window's just opening. I mean, you've seen it with, I would say the core, that young core that I would say was basically comprised of, Zach, Zajac, Clarkson, all those guys when Covey came in the mix. And then you just saw over time how it all fell apart. And obviously we made that miraculous finals run. But then after that, it's just, what happened to their careers. I mean, as far as the Devils go, nothing ever happened. And even Severson was here. I always liked Severson, and people bag on him all the time. I would say, listen, he makes a lot of mistakes sometimes, but you're going to get that from a guy who eats up a lot of minutes and is constantly playing against the other team's best lines. I told one of my buddies who would rag on him constantly, I said, you're going to miss him when he's gone because he's probably our best defenseman. And I've said that for a while. And so it sucks that he was basically on wretched Devils teams his whole career. And then finally, once we kind of turned it around, that was his time to get paid, and he's off to Columbus. But it happens quick, man. It happens quick. Before we know it, Nico's going to be 30, and if people still are talking about down the line and the window's just opening, I don't want to hear it. So that's why I'm always looking for win now guys, and I think maybe a Seamus Casey deal of some kind could bring you, whether that's something at the deadline, a depth winger or a depth center, who knows, right? But as the season goes on, if we are good, we don't have our first round pick this upcoming season because we sent it to Calgary for Markstrom. And so then you look and you're like, okay, if you're really looking to make a big splash heading into the playoffs, what is your most viable bullet to do so? And in my opinion, it would probably be Seamus Casey. A lot of people are like, oh, we have all those second round picks, but second round picks, I don't think are moving the needle for a lot of teams. Unfortunately, that's all we got for Toffoli, right? It was a second and a third, which I thought was a horrific move in itself at the deadline. I really thought we were going to get a first for Toffoli, but without that first round pick, I think Casey is a very valuable piece to be able to dangle out there for some playoff help.
I would see how he does on the farm team at the AHL level. I think that, first round picks and obviously second round picks, it can never do any bad unless they get hurt by playing a year at a high level right under the NHL level. I mean, look at Austin Matthews, right? First overall pick, didn't play in the NHL that year. He went to Switzerland and played. And, I think that year of development really, really helped him. And I think that that's what some guys need. I mean,
Nemitz played a whole year in Utica, and he was slated to be there for a second year. Before all the injuries happened. He was penciled in for year number 2 there.
It can never hurt by giving that extra time to blossom and get the confidence up. I think a lot of these guys may have the skill, but the NHL's, it's a tough league, and confidence is key. And you look at Bratter, right? I don't know how that story is an amazing story. I mean, 6th or 7th rounder, worked with a sports psychologist, goes to training camp that summer, and basically makes the coaches take him. Like he put up such compelling numbers that they were forced to put him on the team. And I think a lot of it has to do with the confidence that these guys get by dominating and feeling like they can hang, because there's a lot of great talent out there, but you got to have the talent and you got to have the balls. And I think for a while we were playing like we were castrated in this league.
Well, dude, we were playing with a bunch of teenagers that were all sub 200 pounds. Let me see.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the bad news gets worse here. Is this? Let me just double check. Okay. You see this now?
Okay.
Dude, there is no nonstop. This place is just oh my God. Some of these. Oh my God. So all the ones, hold on. So this was from LaGuardia. All right. So let me check JFK. Yeah. None of these even have one stop. Newark had one stops. All the LaGuardias have 2. Dude, this is unbelievable. All right. And now we're going to see the flights. Oh my God. Oh, wait. Sheesh. Yo, you see that price jump though? Wow. It's night and day pricing.
Yeah.
So it does exist. It just hits you with that cool surcharge. Let me see. Let me just
extra G.
Wait.
Oh my God. 4. They all leave at the exact same time.
I've never seen this in my life. I have never seen this in my entire life. And then this is.
Damn, that's an expensive flight.
Wait, so this is the return flight on Sunday.
It's all the same.
The day after the game. And somehow this one, look at the. So that's with the room too.
Okay. That's not terrible.
No, I mean it's a lot worse than what it was before, but So there is nonstop, literally only from JFK, and you're at their mercy in terms of timing. So in this scenario, you would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, it would technically be 4 nights. The first night is literally just the travel there. And then we'd get there Thursday morning, and then you would leave Sunday and be home Sunday afternoon.
Actually, it makes more sense to go more days because then you get an extra day there.
Well, listen, guy. Ace has no children. So I'm flying all the way out there. I'm certainly looking for the bonus time. But I understand.
The Thursday.
Listen, if you need, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I have been somewhat successful in the persuasion of some of my buddies' wives, and even ones that like despise me. And so I think I think Erica likes me at least a little bit enough where maybe, some goodwill will go a long way. I don't know.
I think you built up your goodwill.
Do we have to get this on the docket so we can firm this up?
I think we do. I think you've built up enough goodwill that we might just have to spend it all at this casino. I think we just got to put it all on black and let it ride.
We're going to Prague. All right, so we're going to have to figure this out because this is only going to get crazier. Do you think you could pull off the Wednesday? Because that little bonus time, I would like to,
the Wednesday night,
the local beers and the local food and whatever else might be going on in Prague. I've heard it's a very entertaining city. I've never been there. Have you?
No, never been. But a bunch of my buddies went on an abroad program.
It seems like something we should really consider here.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a Hail Mary play to be made here, and I think.
I mean, when are you going to go to court about this? And I'm getting a little nervous about the once in a lifetime because that's going to come back to haunt you if we have to try to pull this off again. And so maybe like once in a lifetime is very finite. Maybe like only a couple times in a lifetime are very rare, very special. You're really going all in with the once in a lifetime, and I do think that could come back to bite us if in say 2029, the Devils are in another global series or something of that nature where you're going to get some resistance up front. Although the kids will be older and it might not be as big of a deal. I don't know how these
by
things
that
work.
time.
Like I said, I'm only a couple hours, bring them back. And so
by that time, we might have some Mitre squirts coming with us.
That would
Charlie,
be
Remy. Yeah,
I would
definitely do that. That would be a once in a lifetime for those kids.
Well, I mean, they have a lot more years left than us, and so maybe the next generation of Devils fans, if we don't see a cup, imagine if we don't see another cup in our life. The thought really crossed my mind the other day, and I'm like, holy shit! If someone told me in 2003 after we won the last one, like you're never gonna see another cup, I'd have been like, get the hell out of here! Like I'm 17, I'm not even 18 yet. Like clearly we'll win another cup, and then obviously even at the time we still had some of the guys. The core pieces still had at least a few years ahead of them. So I'm thinking in my head, we might win another one with this core, never mind future, reiterations of the New Jersey Devils. But it is crazy that it did cross my mind. Like, dude, it is possible that I saw 3 championships from age, from age 9 to 17 and may never see another one. That would be such a damn shame. It really would.
It would be a shame. But when you think about those teams.
No, it's unfair to compare anything to it. I've said this.
I mean,
the greatest goalie of all time and 2 top 15 defensemen of all time, plus great depth character players. It is very unfair to compare anything to it, but
don't forget the 2001 series against
I was at game 6, dude. I'll never forget that.
Ray Bourque.
We were up 3-2. We had the chance to win at home, failed. Go to game 7, blown series. I'll hate Ray Bourque forever because of it.
I mean, that was another one that slid through the cracks. And obviously 2012 with the missed botched call on Bernier or whatever, it still haunts my dreams. But that team, 5 cups potentially in that amount of time. I mean, they won 3 out of 5 of that. That's pretty amazing. I mean, I would say that 2000 team would go down in history as one of the best teams of all time.
The 2000 team was just absolutely filthy. Someone mentioned that in the live the other day. We're like, I would put that 2000 team up against anybody, and I think I would as well. It was crazy. It was just the great players we already had with Marty, Stevens, Niedermeyer, and then the mixture of all the kids.
Gomer and
Colin White. In 2000, the kids were Gomer, Colin White, Madden, and Rafalski. Just the youth infusion on top, and then we went out and got Claude back and Mogilny. The 2000 team is just complete filth. Complete filth. Probably my favorite team on paper, but in terms of the run, just because I went to all the games, and then as you get older, you just you have a little more understanding and whatever else of everything that's kind of going on. The 2003 team will always be my favorite for that reason. I went to every home playoff game except game 1 against Boston, but that 2000 team is absolutely legendary. Absolutely legendary. But to my point of, never seeing another cup again, I mean, this core must win a cup. Let's be realistic. How can you win that many draft lotteries and end up with a number 1 in Nico Hischier, number 1 in Jack Hughes, then you get a number 2 and get Nemitz, and a number 4 and get Luke Hughes? Like, you see what the Penguins did with their draft fortunes. They got Sid, Fleury, and Malkin, and were basically one of the best teams in the league for a dozen years. They were basically tinkering and bringing in pieces, whether it was a Billy Guerin or a Sikora, Marian Hossa, different guys every year. They were, playing around, but the core was there, and they were amongst the favorites in the league to win a cup every year for a very long time. There's no reason why this New Jersey Devils team shouldn't be that, in my opinion, with maybe not tomorrow, but with these main pieces we have in the next couple of years, we should be able to kind of turn the page and be one of those teams that's going to be a legitimate contender for years. There's no reason why we shouldn't be.
So here's the big question mark. You mentioned the Penguins. You mentioned we talked about the Devils. That core Devils group ran around Marty's orbit for his tenure there. You're talking about the Penguins. They all kind of ran around Sid's orbit. Mm-hmm. Do we have an orbital player where that can take us into another universe?
I'm going to say no, and I hate to be that person. When you start talking about orbits, I just think nowadays across the league, I do think those guys are much fewer and far between than they used to be.
Absolutely.
And again, I don't know if that's just me, an old man ranting, or if that's the reality, but a lot of these modern kids, and if you're talking about orbital players, in the league right now, I don't even know how many I would say there are league wide. I think that Jack Hughes could be that guy, but he's still very young, very inexperienced. And I'm hoping him and Nico could kind of be those guys going forward. It's just hard, man, because again, I've told all these kids that watch the show that weren't around for it and only have seen clips and whatever, like the Stevens, Marty, Niedermeyer trifecta is that to me is you would have to comb through the history of hockey to find a goaltender and 2 defensemen that are anywhere near that stratosphere. All 3 of those guys were on the NHL 100 list the NHL put out like 5 years ago, whatever it was, of top 100 players of all time. And again, Marty on everyone's list is no lower than 3. I think he's the greatest of all time. But on every list, he's going to be in the top 3. And then Stevens and Niedermeyer, I think, are going to be in the top 15 on every list, if at the worst, both in the top 20. So when you're looking at something like that, I mean, I don't even know. I'm trying to think right now, like historically even. I guess maybe one of the Red Wings years, if you go like Hasek, Chelios, and
Lidstrom.
Yeah, there you go. Lidstrom. I apologize to Nick Lidstrom, absolute legend. So and they were, or at least Chelios was much further along in his career, whereas we had all these guys for their prime. But yeah, I would say, Hasek, Lidstrom, Chelios is like the closest thing you're going to get to that. Because even when Wah and the Avs, that was a more, kind of offense centric kind of team. Like, they had Foote, but he's not like an all-time great defenseman. You just don't see it. And so, especially in the league then when defense and goaltending was everything, that's a great place to start with Stevens, Niedermayer, and Marty. And it's crazy. I knew, even during that 03 run, I remember thinking to myself, like, dude, these guys are, when you're super young, like they're good, but you don't really understand fully how good they are. And then by that time, I was a senior in high school during the 03 run. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this may never be replicated by anyone in the entire league ever again. Like, for all the chips to fall that way, to have one of the best goalies of all time and two of the greatest defensemen to ever play, all on the same team, all during their primes for that many years, and to have them as a core, it was really special. And we may never see it again. But in today's league, back to your orbit thing, I'm hoping that, while we might not have that one guy that has that aura, that the combination of a bunch of guys that are very solid in Jack, Nico, Dougie Hamilton, that maybe it could all come together and really, push them along in the playoffs. But I, for one, would really like to see Fitz kind of push the chips in the middle at the deadline these next 2 years if we're looking like a team that could truly compete. And I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be able to. I mean, what is your expectations for next season?
My expectations for next season are at least to make it out of the first round of the playoffs. I think that is a realistic goal. If we fail to meet that goal, I would consider this season a failure.
100%.
With all the moves that we made, I really think that we have to make it out of the first round. And I think that great players put it on themselves and put those expectations on themselves to put the team on their back. I think that all the players that you mentioned were capable of doing that. And, Stevens, Niedermayer, Marty, like those guys were the keystone of the rest of the team. And that was by design. That was Lou's design. It was goaltending and defense out. We're closer, but do we have a 1-2 defense core that can help Markstrom? We got to see where the chips fall. I think Markstrom is enough of a player. I think that Markstrom and Hamilton could fill that Niedermayer role a little bit. I mean, he put up tons of points when he was healthy the season before. We need that snarly, scary Stevens character. Is that Dillon?
I think that's
maybe.
As close as you're going to get on this roster. And obviously it's nowhere near the same, but a top 15-ish player in hits, bring the hits, man. At least there'll be somebody patrolling our blue line that opposing forwards will be like, oh shit, I better not get caught by this guy because he's going to slam me. And that's really why I personally, for weeks and maybe even a couple months leading up to free agency, was shouting from the rooftops for Zadorov. I really wanted him. We didn't go after him. Yeah, that 22-23, I just had to double check. Yeah, Dougie had 74 points. I mean, that's insane. 22 goals, 52 assists.
I mean, that goal he scored against the Rangers, top shelf. I was like, when he went down this season, I was like, there goes the farm. It's like we lost a lot when we lost Dougie. So
no, for sure.
I think that these guys know that now is that time, and I think that they feel it. I hope they feel it. I think that now is really the season where Jack has to decide what kind of player he is. Is he going to be an award-winning forward like his brother on defense?
22-23 had 99 points. He missed some games. He definitely should have had over the 100. I do think.
Can he stay healthy?
If he could even play 75 games this upcoming season, I got to really think about it. I do think he gets over 100 points. I'm going to make some videos in the next couple of weeks of my predictions for a lot of guys. But let's wrap up here. What is your overall prediction for the Devils team regular season playoffs for next year?
I think they definitely finish in the playoff hunt. I'll put them at like 4 out of 8. I think they make it in and play the 5th seed, and they get
How
out of
many
the
points you
first
finish
round.
with?
98.
Interesting. 98. Okay.
Yeah,
Make it to the playoffs.
I think they make it to the playoffs. I think they get out of the first round by beating the 5th seed, and then who knows what happens in the second round. You know, the fact that they broke up Carolina this year,
And Kuznetsov's going back to the KHL. They're losing guys.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina had a fire sale this offseason. The Rangers are going to be pissed. I mean, they're going to be out for blood this season. I think. I think losing to Florida really pissed them off, and I think Boston's going to be a force to be reckoned with too. I think the Rangers and Boston are going to be the teams to beat out of the East this year. So, we'll see. We'll see. Can they make it past the first round? I hope. Can they make it past the second round? I hope. We'll see how healthy they are. If they ate their Wheaties and they got their reps in this summer, we'll see.
I think any more than Wheaties, I'd be giving them straight, maybe a little extra to get that weight up. But no, I think they 100% have to win at least a playoff round. Anything short of that is unacceptable. And I would like them to see them make a push, for the conference finals. Plus, I think a lot's going to depend on if we could stay healthy, obviously. Jack and Dougie staying healthy would be huge, and obviously Markstrom as well. But if all these things come together, and I've said in multiple videos in the past couple of weeks, people act like the 22-23 season didn't happen. And in my opinion, the 24-25 Devils on paper are better than that 22-23 team. You have a more experienced Jack, a more experienced Nico. Your other core pieces are still there. Timo was still kind of adjusting to the Devils at that point, heading into the playoffs. And so now you have a fully acclimated Timo, Nico, Jack, Dougie, Bratt firing on all cylinders with a revamped defense and a real goalie. The only element that I could say is close to the same would be really swapping out Sharon Govich and Wood essentially for Nason and Cotter. But again, people that are like, oh, Sharon Govich is way better, they're counting that off of the season he had in Calgary, right? And it's like, what was Sharon Govich doing while he was a Devil? And not to, smack talk him, I thought he was going to be a good player for us, and I was hoping he was going to be part of our core. It's just he was kind of the casualty of the depth chart. We have so many forwards, and he just wasn't going to get that same opportunity. But if you look at what Sharon Govich and Wood did here, I think they combined for 57 points, the two of them in the 22-23 season. I definitely think Cotter and Nason are going to produce more than 57 points combined. And so then when you really look at it, to me, even if I give you the wash in the bottom six, that the replacements is a washout, Pesce and Dillon, in my opinion, over Ball and Marino is a sizable upgrade, and Markstrom and Ned is a sizable upgrade. So when I look at the whole thing, I think this team, do I think we're going to get to 112 points that they got that year? Maybe not, but in terms of how far they could go, I think the sky's the limit, honestly. And maybe it's delusional fan bias, but when I look at the team and say the core pieces are the same, plus some upgrades in key spots, blue line and goal, I'm hoping for big things, man. And I'm hoping we're doing a poor man's tailgate somewhere in Newark outside of the Prudential Center before Stanley Cup Finals game one. Before Stanley Cup Finals game one. Danny boy, awesome talking to you, my friend.
Awesome.
As always,
Ace.
We'll have you back on for sure. And any closing comments you got?
Not really. I just, that year, 2 years ago, we were the comeback kids. I think that if we didn't have to play from behind so much, I think that's going to be the difference between success and failure. I think getting that first goal and holding that lead is going to be everything. Everything.
Playing catch up definitely sucks.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I hope we're doing one of these broadcasts from Prague. And hope for a lot of Czech beer and lots of goal celebrations.
Oh man, I hope it happens. We're gonna have to follow up soon to lock this in.
Maybe we should interview Erica on the next broadcast.
How to get approval to go on an international hockey trip. I like it. All right, man. Good talking to you. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, dude.
And there we have it. My man, Dr. Dan. We're trying to get to Czechia one way or another, trying to iron out the details. I'll keep you guys posted on that front. That's all I got for you guys now. Be back soon with a lot of season predictions and hopes and dreams, and that'll be coming out for the rest of the summer. It's a long, long summer. We have a long way to go to puck drop. And I'm going to try to do some predictions and some other interesting things and things I'm working on. You'll see all that soon, but that's all I got for you right now. Stay cool, New Jersey. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.